Okay, my name is Michael Collins, and this is Media Focus. So, what we're going to be looking at today is this idea of postmodernism, and we are going to be applying it to music videos. So, postmodernism is probably the most complicated and difficult subject in the whole of media studies. And luckily, we don't really need to go into it in a massive amount of detail for music videos. You just need to make sure that you mention it. So, what we're going to do in this session is I am going to try and explain exactly what postmodernism is. And then this is going to help with the future videos on Riptide and Formation, because both of those mid videos are completely and utterly postmodern. So, just as a way of introduction, let's just think back to what music videos are. They combine two completely different industries. They combine the film industry and the music industry. And they often combine a huge variety of different textual elements. So, different elements of editing, of mise en scène, of costume, of editing. And they just chuck it all together just for the hell of it. So, with no real rhyme or reason why it is happening. Music videos very often de-emphasize this idea of a traditional narrative as well. So music videos often are they make absolutely no sense on a narrative level. They'll jump backwards and forwards in time and in narrative structure as well. So what we're going to see is that music videos are essentially the archetypal postmodern medium. So just again to point out, you don't really need to know a whole lot about postmodernism for the music industry, but you will need to know about it in some depth for the TV unit. So it is definitely good to start talking about it now. So, what is postmodernism? Well, first of all, it is extremely hard to define. In fact, postmodernism is impossible to define, as we're about to find out. Postmodernism is a theory which is completely anti theory. It is an idea which is completely against all other ideas which exist in media studies. So, technically, the definition for postmodernism is there is no definition. So it can't be summed up in a snappy sentence. Now, in terms of the theorists we look at, so in A-level media studies, we look at Jean Baudrillard, and he is our postmodernism guy. So he's not the only postmodernist theorist, but he's probably the most famous. So here's the guy that we look at. But yeah, in order to define this, really, we're going to have to look at a few examples. So, the following slides are going to show you some examples of what postmodernism is, or some examples of what postmodernism can be. And please just do remember that postmodern media products break rules. So, in each and every case, it doesn't necessarily mean that a media product is postmodern because it does these things. If you're confused at this stage, then good. This is a difficult theory. This gets very, very complicated very quickly. So have fun. So I've shoved an image of a pig scratching itself on this slide because, to be quite honest, this gets quite deep very quickly and you might need something to distract you. And by the way, having an image of a pig scratching itself is definitely postmodern. So, postmodern products will distrust form, convention, and established conventions. So, basically, postmodern products will break rules. The conventions of genre or narrative or whatever, a postmodern product will generally break these. Postmodern products generally favor style over substance. So, often postmodern products will look good and won't really care so much about what they mean deep down. So, style over substance, looks over a deeper message. Postmodern products will often have a lack of distinction between high and low culture. So previously we had this idea of high culture, for example, fine dining, the opera, art films, and low culture, for example, McDonald's or some trashy pop song. And postmodern media products will generally mix and match these two different ideas. Postmodern media products are often deliberately as trashy and as deliberately crappy as possible. Postmodern media products will often de emphasize temporal continuity. This essentially means that they will jump backwards and forwards in time for often absolutely no reason other than it looks cool. And this is something that we will see in Formation by Beyonce, although that video definitely does have a reason for doing it. Postmodern media products will distrust encompassing meta narratives. Now, this is something we looked at in the last video. A meta narrative is a way of seeing the world, for example, science or religion or Marxism. And postmodern media products like to break the rules which exist in society. This next point is related to an earlier point. It will emphasize surface readings over deeper analysis. Postmodern media products are not there to be analyzed. They don't mean anything. That's the whole point, which rather chucks a spanner in the works for A-level media studies because that's what we do. We analyze things. We can start to see the problem here. Postmodern media products are often deliberate in the way they celebrate consumerism, hedonism, i.e., being really over the top, for example, just people getting really drunk or something like that, and style over substance again. Often postmodern media products will include loads and loads of screens, uh, and this is generally something which older media products didn't do. For example, in a film, you would rarely see characters go to the cinema. But this tends to happen more and more in postmodern media products. And finally, we often see the erosion of self and identity in postmodern media products. So characters may lose track of who they are, or they may completely change. So thinking about the video to Applause by Lady Gaga, at one stage she is the Venus de Milo, not quite the birth of Venus, rather, with her shell bra. At one stage, she is a hegemonically attractive woman in her underwear, and in another situation, she is a large black swan. So, the whole idea behind this video is that she is a variety of different persons and personalities. Each one contradicts each other. So, as you can see, this all gets very, very complicated very quickly. So, let's just go over just a few examples through this. And if you can think of any examples that you might want to check out with me later on, please do send me an email and we can go through this. The most important thing to think about with postmodernism, I'll just say this again, is postmodern products break rules. They will deliberately break the rules of media products. They will do things which media products should not do. They will do things on purpose in order to be trashy, in order to be weird, in order to confuse the audience. So that's a great way of thinking about postmodern media products. And they might do this for a variety of different reasons. So just going through the list again with a few examples, yet they might criticize meta-narratives. So an excellent example of this would be the video to Judas, again by Lady Gaga. And in this video, Lady Gaga is Mary Magdalene, the biblical figure, and we have a whole range of different biblical characters who are portrayed by Hispanic bikers in leather. And there's all kinds of elements of sexualization. And this is the kind of video which would be particularly offensive to certain groups in society who might see it as being blasphemous. Why did Lady Gaga do this? Well, frankly, it's to piss people off. And postmodern media products often exist purely just to piss people off. Maybe she was saying something about society. Maybe she was saying, why can't Jesus be a Hispanic biker? Who knows? But in general, I think she did it to be annoying. Again, Lady Gaga. So postmodern media products will often use a deliberately trashy style. Here she is in a bit of perspex, a bit of bog roll, some ripped tights, some pretty standard underwear, and a nun's wimple with shocking yellow hair. All these things are pretty awful. They don't really go together, and that is the whole point. It is deliberately bad, it is deliberately awful, and that is why it is cool. It is postmodern. Postmodern media products will often break rules. So, I probably shouldn't have done this as an example because he's been publicly disgraced, but Kevin Spacey in the TV show House of Cards quite often looks directly at the screen. So, this breaks the rules of TV shows, it breaks the rules of films. Characters on screen shouldn't know that we as an audience exist. So, by doing something like this, it breaks the rules. A much better example, slightly less controversial, is Deadpool. Every time he looks at the screen or every time he makes a joke about another character, that's postmodernism. On the bottom there, we have a shot from Pulp Fiction, which is an excellent example. The film breaks the fourth wall. There's one scene in particular where Mia Wallace, who is the romantic interest for Vincent Vega, who's on the left there, she breaks all the rules of cinema by just drawing out a square on the screen. This is diegetically situated within the fact that Vincent Vega is currently tripping on heroin at that stage, but we as the audience should not be able to see it. Pulp Fiction is postmodern in a whole range of other different ways as well. Um, so this is a shot from the Kanye West video to Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. Well, no, that's the Daft Punk song that he's covering. I can't remember. I think the song's just called Stronger. And this is postmodern because it's making specific reference to other texts. So the Daft Punk song, which this song samples, it's also making reference to other times and other places. So we've got these kind of weird old school scan lines going over the image to make it look like an ancient television. We've got this kind of retro style with these kind of laser specs, which again look like scan lines, like an old television. We've got this huge Japanese character floating in the middle, and the music video also references lots of Japanese aspects as well. These things don't really belong together, but that's kind of what makes the video cool. It breaks the rules, therefore, it is postmodernism. We also have this idea of style over substance. So going back to Lady Gaga again, here she is. She is a black swan. There is no real reason for this. Maybe we've got the symbolism of a black swan. It is special. It is an outcast. But to be quite honest, this is here just to make her look cool and quirky. This is just there in order to confuse and maybe even upset the audience by doing something completely weird and something which is completely out of the ordinary. So, to conclude with postmodernism, just kind of flicking back to, let's just flick back to the pig here, why not? The only thing you really need to know at this stage is the music videos that you will be talking about in the exam are postmodern. They deliberately break the rules in order to put the audience into an uncomfortable and exciting mode of address. And to be quite honest, there have been so many tens of thousands of pages written on postmodernism, probably way, way more. But really, in the end, that's what we can sum up with. That music videos quite often do strange things for the sake of being strange.